This series contains adult language and descriptions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, guys. Hello, and welcome to episode 105 of Death by Southwest. I am your host, Margot, and I am super excited about today's episode. It has enraged me. That's all I'm going to say for now. So we're going to jump right into it because it is late on Tuesday, and I know I need to publish this. And so here we go. I'm going to say one thing. If you have been following along with the saga of the Melvins in my backyard, and if you are new or you don't listen to the bonus episodes, then maybe you don't know who the Melvins are, but I did talk about them on the last bonus episode, and then I talk about them endlessly on Patreon. So, guys, I got the ultrasonic sound thing, and I have to put it out. I haven't yet because I'm worried it's gonna, it's supposed to disorient them, but I'm worried it's gonna upset them or hurt them mentally, which is insane. I know I sound insane as I say that, but they've been getting really bold. So this afternoon, I walked into the backyard and I saw 3 of them running across the yard. Now, I don't let the dogs, I go in the backyard first and then I take a broom and I walk around and hit the ground with the broom to make sure that the Melvins have time to get back safely to their oleander tree behind the fence, because I'm a fucking lunatic. So on that note, but they are getting in the yard, and it's making me nervous because I know that their feces can be very dangerous to people and dogs. And as much as I love the Melvins, I do love my dogs more. So Melvin's got to go. So I'll keep you posted on that. I know everyone is on the edge of their seat waiting to find out what happens. Hopefully they just quietly leave and find a new place to live, right? Right. Okay. Well, I just looked at the timer. Was that really 7 minutes I've been talking about that? Ugh. So sorry. Let's jump in, guys. So here's our little introduction. She was smart, talented, beautiful, and just weeks away from graduation. Lauren McCluskey was a star track athlete at the University of Utah, beloved by everyone who knew her. But when she fell for a man who seemed too good to be true, it turned out he was. He wasn't who he said he was. He was hiding a criminal past, and when Lauren uncovered the truth and begged for help, no one listened. This is the horrifying story of a young woman who did everything right and still wasn't saved. So we've talked about Utah before. The University of Utah is just east of downtown Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City in general the city itself has about 200,000, but the metropolitan area, which I'll be totally honest, I mean, are we talking about just downtown has 200,000 and then the whole surrounding area has more, but the whole metro area has 1.2 million. It's generally considered a safe, clean, outdoorsy, and family-oriented kind of city. The university has about 35,000 students. Campus is about 1,500 acres. It's known for medical research, a strong track and field program, which our victim, Lauren, today, she was a track and field athlete. And the school itself, I don't know if all schools do this. I didn't look into it, to be honest, but the school itself advertises itself as a safe, supportive campus environment. Now, I'm assuming most schools do that. What school is going to be like, no, we're crime ridden and we are not supportive of our students. So I feel like that's kind of really? Okay, of course, every school would say that. So let's jump in and get to know Lauren. We're going to start with learning about who she was. And I wanted to say, someone had commented to me maybe a week ago, why do you start with getting to know the victim? Why don't you start with the action? Why don't you start with the murder? And I really had to think about it, but at the end of the day, I think these stories are about more than just the murder or the crime. I know this is true crime, and I know that people who love true crime tend to love the crime. uh, but I think that starting with like the crime and how she died, I don't know. I like to get to know who she was when she was alive because that matters, even though she's like so many victims no longer around. But so that's why I start with getting to know the victim, and that's what we're going to do today. So she was born on February 12th, 1997, in Pullman, Washington. She was the kind of kid that parents kind of dream about. Her mom, Jill, taught economics. Her dad, Matt, taught physics. And they built their family kind of around academics, athletics, and love. They were a pretty tight knit family. Lauren was walking by the time she was 9 months old. She was climbing trees by the time she was 2 years old. And by the time she was eight, she'd already broken three track and field records at the Junior Olympics. That is 8 years old. That's incredible. She gravitated towards high jump and hurdles, pushing herself always to be better, faster, and stronger. And not just to like win, but it really mattered to her. Kind of the art of the athletics mattered to her. In photos, she had a soft but radiant smile and eyes that seemed to listen even when she wasn't speaking. And when someone else wasn't speaking to her, she just was listening with her heart, it seemed like. And when you were speaking, Lauren listened like fully. She made people feel like they were seen. But she was shy at first. She was quiet. Yet she still had this kind of magnetism about her. She was a natural introvert who still managed to become kind of the heart of every room that she walked into. Her room back in Pullman, Washington was filled with medals, trophies, and ribbons. But Lauren was never the kind of person to brag about things like that. She credited her success to her support system, her family, her friends, always. So when it came time for college, she had her pick of Division I schools, and she chose the University of Utah, 600 miles from home. She received a full scholarship for track and field, and she was excited to move to a new city and start a new chapter. Her parents were nervous for her to go so far away, but as I said, the University of Utah advertised itself as one of the safest campuses in the country. And Lauren, she didn't really drink. She wasn't a partier. She didn't get into fights. She didn't cause waves. She kind of focused on what was important to her, her academics and her athletics. So her parents thought she can handle it. Lauren's freshman year started pretty slowly. She didn't really know anyone and she kept mostly to herself. That was until she met her randomly assigned roommate, Alex, who would become her best friend for life. Over the next few years, hanging out with Alex and other friends, Lauren changed. She shifted and kind of grew into herself. She went from the girl who kept her head down on campus and was entirely focused on academics and athletics to the girl who was willing to get up and sing a song at karaoke or get on stage and try amateur comedy night, which that's a big jump. I mean, I'm not an introvert, if you can guess, and I'm very comfortable socially and in crowds and whatnot. And I don't know if there's any amount of money you could pay me to get up on stage and try to like do stand-up comedy at amateur comedy night. That would horrify me, but not Lauren. And by senior year, she was a few months from graduating and she was ready for perhaps maybe to find some love. That wasn't a big focus of college up until then for her. And this potential love interest came in the form of a man named Sean Fields, or at least that's what he said his name was. It was September 2nd, 2018, a Saturday night, and Lauren and Alex went to check out a new bar called London Bell. When they reached the front of the line, Lauren locked eyes with the bouncer, tall, muscular, seemingly charming. He introduced himself as Sean Fields, said he was 28, working security while also studying at a local community college. He mentioned, I find it strange that he mentioned this in the first night. I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but he apparently was adopted, had a rough childhood, but now he was very focused on improving his life and moving forward. Lauren was kind of smitten with him by the end of the night. So she did something that was super out of character for her. And she slipped him her number on a napkin as she headed out the door. Later that night, Sean had already texted her. And by the next afternoon, they were on their first date, going climbing, apparently, which is one of Lauren's favorite activities. And he even brought her a dozen roses. Within a week, they were officially dating. Lauren was glowing. She called her mom, told her mom that he bought me roses. He took me to meet his friends. I really, really like him. And Lauren's mom, Jill, could hear how happy Lauren was in her voice, and she was happy for her. She had never really heard her like this before. Now, it did give her pause when she found out that Sean was 28 years old, about 7 years older to Lauren, who was just 21. But again, she trusted Lauren. She thought that Lauren had always made good decisions, and she trusted her to make a good decision when it came to her dating life. Everything seemed magical at first. Doesn't it always, guys? But it didn't take long for Lauren's inner circle to notice that something was off. Sean was always around. And it was more than the typical, like, we just started dating and we can't wait to spend every second together. That kind of feeling. It was different than that. It had like a twinge of controlling to it. He had all but officially moved into her dorm room, which was strange because Lauren only had a twin bed and Sean was huge. He was over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds. He was a big guy. He wasn't like the kind of person that's like, let's share a twin bed kind of guy, you know? So her friends were wondering, like, why didn't they ever sleep at his place? And that wasn't all. They started to notice that if he didn't like what she wore, she'd change. Or sometimes he would just tell her what to wear. One day she said, I'm wearing these jeans and this t-shirt because Sean told me to, which her friends were kind of like, what? He told her when she was allowed to hang out with friends or to invite friends out, which again, that phrasing, that verbiage is weird. Allowed. Why was he allowing her to do anything? They'd only been dating for like a week, 2 weeks. Time was moving as it does in our stories. If she didn't text back within minutes, he would become very, very upset. And when he called her and she answered, he always had a million questions. Where are you? Who are you with? Then he told her, I am not comfortable with you going anywhere where there might be men. So, like everywhere, basically, every single place in town, there might be men. Lauren's friend Diamond was a graduate student, so she was a little bit older. She was a little bit wiser, perhaps, and she was working in student housing. And when Diamond kind of heard all of this and caught wind of all of this, she very clearly told Lauren, she said, this is coming from a place of love, but let me tell you, this is not love, what you're experiencing. This is control. Lauren kind of tried to rationalize it. Oh, he has trust issues. His last girlfriend cheated on him. He's just trying to protect me. Diamond wasn't buying it. None of Lauren's other friends were buying it, but Lauren was seemingly buying it. She was convincing herself of this. And then his behavior continued to escalate. He demanded photos of her location, wherever she was. He wanted pictures. Like if she went out, he'd say, send me pictures of where you are and send me pictures of who you're with. Crazy. One time she was at class at night. She had like a later in the evening class and her phone died while she was there. So, okay, well, no big deal. But she left class after it ended, went home, plugged in her phone, was charging her phone, and he called and he was screaming at her, absolutely incensed with that she had disappeared. And then he accused her of cheating on him. And she's like, how? I was at class. Now, keep in mind, it's only been 3.5 weeks now. 3.5 weeks, and he's telling her what she can wear, who she can hang out with, and when. Demanding pictures of like where you are and who you're with. That is beyond. But Lauren was forgiving. And also, Sean was pretty manipulative. He was really good at laying it on thick. He knew just how to apologize, just what to say, just how to kind of like get her to forgive him in record time, over and over and over again. And then came a moment that really concerned her friends. Sean told Lauren he wanted her to get a gun. He told her it was just for her protection. But Lauren didn't have any enemies. She had never been threatened. She had never had fights with anyone. She lived in a very safe location. So where is this coming from? No one really understood it, but Sean insisted he had to get her a gun that she could keep in her dorm room. And when Diamond, remember, who works at student housing, heard about this, she was like, this is it. That's it. This is too creepy. And guns aren't allowed in student housing. So she reported it to the university housing in a lengthy email. Their response was kind of surprising. They didn't seem concerned at all. And they said, this isn't a priority. And based on that, no one ever followed up on this. No one ever followed up with Diamond. No one followed up with Lauren. And this was just the first in a long chain of failures. By September 29th, so remember they met on September 2nd. So again, 3.5-ish weeks they've been dating at this point. September 29th, Lauren's friends are done. They've had enough of this Sean and how he's affecting their friend, Lauren. Alex had stopped by Lauren's apartment that day, and she was kind of taken aback and shocked by what she saw. Lauren was not looking like herself. She had changed the way she looked. She hadn't changed it, but this relationship had changed the way she looked in just a few weeks. She looked worn down, beat down, not physically beaten, but just dejected, thinner, exhausted. She seemed drained. This wasn't the same girl that had been singing at karaoke nights just a few weeks ago or dancing at the London Bell. Something was wrong, and Alex knew it. So they'd already tried to talk to Lauren, and Lauren kept no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. So the friends decided it's not fine, and we're going to do something about it. So Alex and a couple of Lauren's other close friends stepped in. They went ahead and reported what they'd seen and what they knew to campus housing officials. They explained that Lauren was in a controlling and unhealthy relationship with a man who was practically living in her dorm room, and that he was pressuring her to get a gun, and that he had talked about bringing firearms onto campus. They didn't hold back either. They were very direct with the campus housing officials, and they told them, we're scared she's going to seriously get hurt. But instead of flagging this as a pretty urgent safety issue, bringing firearms on campus, I would think that would send up a red flag or something. Nope. They didn't notify campus police. They didn't contact the school's behavioral intervention team. They didn't focus on any of that. Instead, they zeroed in on the guest policy. Yep. That's the only thing they cared about, that Lauren may have violated housing rules by allowing Sean to stay for too long. So they said, well, we'll have a chat with her about that. Now, the next day, it seems like they came to their senses a little bit, and they apparently agreed that, okay, fine, maybe we should file a formal report just in case. But the computer system was down, so they never did. That was that. They kind of took the mindset of well, the computer system's down, so maybe we'll get back to it. They never got back to it, and they eventually decided, well, Lauren's an adult. I think we better not get too involved. Another big mistake. Now it is October 9th, a beautiful October morning, right before fall break. Sean had slept over the night before, and he went out to take care of a few errands. Lauren was cleaning up the dorm room, and she noticed that he must have accidentally left his ID behind. So she picked it up to move it to the side, and she just kind of glanced at it as she was moving it. And she did a double take because it didn't say Sean Fields. It said Melvin Roland. That's why I mentioned the Melvins at the beginning, guys. It just, So shocking that his name is not his name, sure. But then she looked a little closer. Oh, he's not 28. He's 37. Now, 28, 21. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm old now. It doesn't seem like that big of an age gap. 7 years, fine. Still in your 20s. 21 to 37. That's a pretty big age gap. 16 years. Lauren was devastated. Not necessarily because he was 37, but because he'd been lying to her this entire time. And she had to know why. So, of course, she Googled him. And you know what they say, like like when you're sick, don't Google your illness. Don't do that. It's a good thing she did, but what she found was way more upsetting than lying about your name and your age. She found that he was a registered sex offender with multiple convictions, and he had spent about 10 years in prison. She called Alex, her friend, distraught, and told her everything. And then she called her mom and didn't tell her mom everything, I don't think, but told her enough. Up until now, Lauren, even though she was very close with her parents, she hadn't told them anything about how Sean was treating her, how controlling he was. Because I think, truthfully, from an outside perspective at least, it seemed like she wasn't even really ready to kind of digest how controlling he was or admit to herself like how unhealthy this relationship was. So of course she's not going to tell her parents that. Plus she didn't want to worry them. So her mom was not surprisingly like shocked. She didn't know any of this was going on, that he was controlling, none of it. And she was worried, of course. This much older man who had been like apparently emotionally abusing her daughter was a registered sex offender and was lying to. I mean, like, it's not good. But Lauren's mom was happy because Lauren said, like, I'm going to break up with him. I can't do this. This is not okay. But Lauren was scared, and her mom could tell that she was scared. Sean had a temper, and she didn't know. She had never done this before. She didn't know how to like properly break up with somebody, especially somebody who has kind of a known temper and control issues. So she talked to her mom for a while longer. And then she was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm okay. I'm going to do this. I'm ready. So she sat down and she was kind of going over in her head what she's going to say to him, thinking about it. And she kind of turns her head this way and something catches her eye outside of her window. It's Melvin. And that's what we're going to call him from now on because that's his real name, not Sean. So Melvin is standing there just scowling at her, like angrily staring at her, which would be extremely scary and off-putting. But okay, she let him in. She was like, what the hell? Okay, come on in. And when he came inside, it was clear that he had been out there. He didn't just walk up. He had been out there listening to her because he was visibly upset that she had been talking about him and their relationship to her friends and family. But Lauren kind of noted that it didn't seem like he had heard everything though. It didn't seem like he knew that she knew that he'd been lying to her. So she told him. She said that, I know that you lied about your name. I know that you lied about your age. And I know that you're a registered sex offender. He denied everything, not surprising. He spun this like crazy tale that he was like, oh, I was set up by a 17-year-old girl at a frat party. I didn't know how old she was. The charges weren't real. I was falsely convicted, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I didn't tell you because I didn't think you'd believe me. Well, no shit, Melvin, Sean. Of course she's not going to believe you because it was a total lie. And she could see online that he had actually pled guilty to soliciting sex from a 13-year-old online. It was actually never a 13-year-old. Apparently, it was like a sting operation. And he solicited sex to this person that he thought was 13. And it was a police officer. Lauren didn't want to hear it. She was done. She told him to leave. We're breaking up. I don't want to be with you. You're 30. Like, no. Goodbye. Nope. Melvin was not having it. He was not going to leave. Not only did he refuse to leave, but every time she kind of tried to he's 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds, like I said. She's not pushing him out the door, but she's kind of trying to like maneuver him in that direction. And every time she did that, he would just block the doorway, essentially trapping her in her dorm room. There really wasn't much she could do. Specifically, he was 6'3" and 250 pounds, and most of that was muscle. So she's not going to be fighting him, obviously. So she sat down and was stuck in her dorm room with him. And for hours, he forced her to stay in that room with him, begging her for another chance, going between like apologizing and being angry that she doesn't believe him and manipulating and just refusing to leave. And she's thinking in her head, okay, I'm going to placate him. I'm going to just let him say his spiel. Eventually, he's going to get tired of this and then he'll leave. Maybe he just needs to like get it out. Well, when the sun starts coming up, they've literally been in there all night, 4 hours, and he was still refusing to go. And then, like, it was almost like a switch flipped. He said, "Fine, I'll leave, but I got to borrow your car. I need to take your car." She didn't even question why. She just said, "Fine, you can get it back to me tomorrow or today, technically, because it's already the sun is coming up. And fine, whatever." Obviously, at least in my opinion, like he did this because he wants to see her again. He's gonna have to give the car back. He gets to see her again. But Lauren was like, she didn't have it in her to argue anymore. Sun's up. She just wants him gone. So she said, fine, here are the keys. He can take her green. She had a green Jeep Liberty and he would get it back to her. They'd make a plan so she could pick it up from him. He would drop it off, something like that later that day. But she just didn't feel right about it. Like they had planned that they would meet up later, and he'd get the car back to her. And it just didn't sit right with her. And it didn't sit right with her mom when she told her mom about it either. So that's when Lauren's mom, Jill, called the university police. And she said, now, these recordings are long. So I'm going to somewhat summarize them for you. She basically said, "Hi, I would like to request some help for my daughter who's a student at the university." When the dispatcher asked what was going on, Jill explained Lauren's was dating a man who wasn't who he claimed to be. He had her car, he lied about his name, his age, everything, and he was a registered sex offender. She said, "I'm worried that he's dangerous. I just want someone to be with her when she gets her car back." Now, this dispatcher was amazing. And if I can find I heard the audio clip. If I can find and figure out how to rip that audio clip, I will insert it right here. If I cannot, then I will just continue to explain it to you. So the dispatcher was calm. She was kind. She was really thorough. She put me at ease and I'm just listening to her. So I think she probably put Jill at ease as well. She said, "We can definitely help with that. Let me have your daughter's number. I'm going to call her. We will figure it out and I will let you know." And Jill said, "Okay, she's alone. A bunch of her friends are out of town because it's fall break and I don't want something bad to happen to her." And she repeated that a couple times. I don't want something bad to happen to her. Like if she said it enough, it would make it true. So soon after this, the dispatcher called Lauren herself. And she didn't want to alarm Lauren. So she said, "Hi, is this Lauren?" And Lauren said, "Yeah." She said, "This is the university police. I got a call from your mom. She's just a little worried about your car drop off. Would you like somebody to go with you?" And Lauren basically is like, "I think it's okay." She sounds hesitant. So again, if I can find this audio clip, I will put it in here. And I'm doing that so that there's like an intro into it if I find it. Um, and if I can, I'm going to just continue telling you about it. So Lauren, she sounded a little hesitant, but she was kind of like, "I think it's okay." And the dispatcher could kind of sense that hesitation. And she doesn't just give up easily. She's like, "Well, you could even come hang here at the department with us. And then he could drop the car off here. We've got lights and security. You won't be alone." Lauren was kind of like, "No, I think I'd rather just like go get it myself. I'll call if I need anything." And I mean, this dispatcher, even more than what I just described, a couple of times, she's like, "Well, you know, Okay, are you sure? It's really not a big deal. I know it's not super fun to hang out with like campus police, but we're kind of cool. She was like, I'm cool. I mean, she was a really nice dispatcher. She was really, really trying to get Lauren to agree to have some help or have someone accompany her because on the previous call that the dispatcher had with Jill, Jill is in tears. She is worried about Lauren. And the dispatcher, could feel that and respected that. So she really tried hard and she told Lauren, okay, well, if you're not gonna like if you don't want somebody to accompany you or you don't want to come here, I'm gonna just, would it be okay? We usually have an officer in the area. So can you tell me where you're gonna be meeting to get your car? And Lauren told her. And she said, okay, well, I'm just going to make sure that like at the time that you're supposed to be meeting, there's an officer in the area. So if you need anything, you just call us back. Okay. The dispatcher called Jill back and said, look, she's fine. She said she's fine and she doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. I'm going to send a security officer to the area anyway, just in case. Jill is uneasy. She says, he's dangerous. She's dealing with a bad person who lied to her. The dispatcher agrees, but says like, unless Lauren wants help, I can't really force it on her. There's only so much that I can do. So she alerted campus security to be, nearby at the time of the drop off. But then it seemed there was a change of plans. Melvin apparently dropped Lauren's car off at the university stadium. So Lauren called campus police and she said, so it's kind of a change of plans. I'm actually going to the stadium to get my car, and I was wondering if I could get a ride there. And the dispatcher's like, yeah, of course, of course, of course. Yeah, I'll have somebody pick you up and take you there. Do you want him to wait with you while you wait for your car? And Lauren was like, yeah, that'd be good. So an officer comes and gets her, drives her to the stadium, and there is her Jeep Liberty parked as promised, key inside, and no Melvin to be seen. So Lauren kind of like breathes a sigh of relief for what feels like the first time in days. I mean, she's been stressed. And she drives home and she tells her mom that she got her car and she's okay. And for a brief moment, Lauren's parents also breathe. Well, mom, I don't know if she's filled in the dad yet, but her mom breathes a sigh of relief. They think, okay, she got her car back. She's broken up with him. It's over. And, even the campus police, when they talk to Jill again, they say, like, don't worry, we'll keep an eye out for Lauren. We'll make sure nothing happens to her. But really, you have nothing to worry about. Campus is very, very safe here. Is it? No. Unfortunately, they were wrong because Melvin was not done with Lauren. He still wanted to control her. In his mind, Lauren was still his. So within days, Lauren started receiving creepy anonymous texts, messages that seemed like they were supposed to be from Melvin's friends. And I'm saying that with air quotes. But the messages were strange. They said things like, how could you do this to the big man? Melvin's a good guy. You broke his heart. Okay, not so strange, but weird to get that like his friends are, what, giving her a hard time because she broke up with him? Kind of weird. Then the texts escalated, claiming that Melvin was in the hospital. They didn't know if he was going to make it. And then claiming that Melvin was dead and it was her fault and that they wanted her to come to, are you going to come to the funeral? Lauren was super freaked out. And she was like, he's dead? So she got on social media to see like had he been active at all? And well, he was very much alive, still posting, still liking and lurking on social media. So she called campus police and she said, "Look, it started with an email and then it moved into text messages from like this texting app." The dispatcher said, "Has this happened before?" And Lauren said, "Well, kind of like I know it's Melvin Rowland. He's my ex-boyfriend. He's 37. He's kind of been harassing me." The officer asked if she felt threatened or in danger, and Lauren said, "Well, not exactly, but I do feel like someone's trying to like lure me somewhere. Like I feel like they're trying to lure me out of my dorm. Like this whole story about him being dead was a setup." The officer's advice? Well, Don't go anywhere that makes you uncomfortable and just give us a call back if anything actually happens. I mean, again, this is at this point, I do understand that everyone's in a hard spot. Like, there isn't necessarily a ton of evidence or information that like Lauren is in danger or immediate danger. Like, they don't know that he sent these texts. They can't go arrest him just based on the fact that she thinks it's him. And I don't know if there's enough for them to like full on investigate yet. So I do understand that at this point, at least, there's not much they could do, except that Lauren's mom did tell them that he's a registered sex offender and a convicted criminal. Like, he went to prison for 10 years. 10 years, that's a long time. It seems like they could have maybe done something more. I don't know what. I don't know what the protocol is, but they did nothing except for to tell her to call back if something else happened. And of course, something did. On October 13th at 9:22, Lauren made another call to police. And she said, I've received more messages. And I'm pretty sure this is from Melvin himself. I received anonymous text messages that said if I didn't send $1,000 to this account, they would post compromising photos of me and my ex-boyfriend online. And she said, so I was scared, so I sent the money. I sent them $1,000. Campus police finally decided to take a formal report. They ran Melvin's criminal history, which, as we know, was extensive. Though somehow they claimed that at the time, he was on parole and they never saw that. I'm not sure how that's possible, but allegedly they could see his criminal history, they could see his criminal record, but they couldn't see that he was currently on parole. Now, I don't know how that works. I've never logged into a police computer to see somebody's criminal history, but that seems like a big oversight if that's something that isn't listed. Nonetheless, they assigned a case, a detective to the case. Sorry about that, guys. To investigate possible sexual extortion charges. But the detective they assigned to the case was heading out on vacation the next day. And so there was no arrest, no real follow-up, no urgency. And when Lauren called back a day or two later for an update, scared, frustrated, she learned that the detective wouldn't be back to work until October 23rd. And she was told to call campus dispatch in the meantime if she gets another message that appears to be an attempt to lure her somewhere. I mean, or extort her, right? Now, when Lauren's friend Alex hears all of this, she's like, what the fuck? This is insane. We need to be more proactive. Let's go to the police station and not just keep calling. Lauren agrees. So they go to the campus police department in person, hoping that they'll finally be heard. Like, really heard. But when they arrive, officers don't even take them into a private room. They just talk to them in the lobby like they're having like a casual catch up. No big deal. They explain everything, that Melvin is a convicted sex offender, that he's threatening her, that he might release nude photos of her. She even tells them, I caught him peeking in my window the day that we broke up. They still brush it off. They say there's not enough evidence. Then they said, the texts might not even be from him. Maybe someone hacked his phone. And then they suggest that if someone hacked his phone, Melvin could be a victim too. Which literally made my blood boil. I cannot believe that Alex and Lauren kept their cool, because if a police officer looked to me after my lying felon of an ex-boyfriend had been threatening me and extorting money from me and told me that maybe he's the victim, I think I would have punched him in the face. But Lauren and Alex did not punch the officer in the face, and the officers did not arrest Melvin, did not contact his parole officer because supposedly they didn't even know he was on parole. They didn't flag the case as urgent or something to look into. They just told her once again to call if things escalate. Like, how far do things have to escalate before someone helps this girl? Well, the next message that Lauren got a day too later is, "What did you tell the cops? We know everything." Lauren panics. She calls the Salt Lake City Police Department, hoping that they maybe will be able to help because campus police is doing absolutely nothing. She's worried that like Melvin has hacked into her phone because how does he know that she's talking to the police? How does he know everything? But Salt Lake City Police Department tells her, "Well, where did this happen? Like, where were you when you received the text message?" And she's like, "At my dorm." I'm like, "Oh, well, we can't help you. You're going to have to call campus police." Over the next week, Lauren calls campus police multiple times. Supposedly, an officer had given her his number. I also saw that it was a detective. Either way, someone from campus police gave her his number, and the two exchanged 16 phone calls over the next few days. So at this point, Lauren has reported the harassment, filed official reports. She has reported stalking. She's reported being threatened, blackmailed, extorted. She knows the person's name. They know who he is. They know his criminal history. And yet, no arrest, no protection offered, no consequences for Melvin, just vague reassurances that someone is looking into it. A detective has been assigned to the case and is looking into it. Yes, of course. But this detective is out of town. And while this detective was out of town, they didn't have like an interim detective. They didn't say, like, well, this detective was assigned to the case and they're out of the office for the next 5 days. So let's have, Bobby Sue over here step in and take over the case for now. Nope. Lauren's case just sat there on that detective's desk. Nothing happened with it. No one paid attention to it. Nothing. Then Lauren receives another text. And this text claimed to be from Deputy Chief Rick McLennan asking her to come down to the police station to discuss her case. But Lauren was like, this feels weird. Like, nobody's paid me any attention. And now all of a sudden they're texting me to come down here like out of nowhere. Uh, she suspected that it was probably Melvin, and thank goodness she did because she called the campus police to verify, and they said, no, no one from our department sent that text. So now Melvin is not just harassing her, extorting her, threatening her, and stalking her. He's impersonating a police officer. And still, nothing is done. Just let that sink in. He's a convicted felon on parole, whether they know it or not. They know he's a convicted felon, impersonating a police officer, extorting money, stalking, like all of those things they already know. And now impersonating a police officer, and no one is doing anything. Nothing. They just tell her, don't answer anymore, block the number. And she's left on her own once again. It's now October 22nd. Remember, the detective comes back October 23rd. It's October 22nd. It's a Monday. It's quiet. It's uneventful. Lauren goes to her later in the evening class. Earlier, she'd taken a quiz in her health communication course and she'd done really well. Her group project for her other class was due that night and she was on track to get it done early. It was one of those rare fall days where, for Lauren at least, everything felt good and normal. The text messages and harassment had kind of slowed. For the first time in weeks, Lauren was feeling like, okay, maybe I was overreacting and maybe like this is over. Around 8:20 p.m. on her walking back to her dorm from class, she called her mom, I love this. Her mom was on the Stairmaster in their basement in Washington. And it was their ritual. They talked every single day. And this really hurt my heart. It's going to make me get choked up. This is not about me. I talked to my mom every single day. I mean, not my whole entire life, obviously, but I don't know, the last 5, 6 years that she was alive, we talked every single night. It was our ritual. It was a ritual. I'd have a glass of wine. She'd maybe be smoking a joint. And it was great. And this just reminded me of that. So sorry for that little personal anecdote. Um, so that was their ritual. They talked every night. Sometimes they talked multiple times a day. And Lauren on this call sounded like herself for the first time in a minute. She told her mom, I've got good news. I did well on my quiz today. They talked about her plans to finish her project early and then she'd relax the rest of the night. Lauren was laughing. Jill thought she sounded lighthearted, like kind of like a burden had been lifted. And Lauren was nearing her dorm and she was getting ready to say goodbye. And she told her mom, all right, well, I love you. And then all that Jill heard was Lauren screaming, no, no, no. Jill froze. Then there was a clatter as the phone hit the ground, and then silence. No scuffle, no more screaming, no nothing, just silence. The line wasn't dead. Her mom could still hear outdoor noises, so she knew that it hadn't like hung up on her. But Lauren seemingly wasn't there. So Jill's shouting her name, Lauren, Lauren, calling to her, are you okay? Are you there? There's no answer. So she jumps off the Stairmaster. She runs up screaming for Matt. And she doesn't want to hang up the phone because she's still on with Lauren, even though Lauren's not there. So Matt calls the police on his phone and he says, hi, my daughter, Lauren McCluskey. She was talking to her mom. And then she just started saying, no, 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 no. And it sounded like someone might have been grabbing her or something. Jill is still clutching the phone, praying that Lauren will come back on the line, praying that she will hear her daughter's voice again. But she didn't. And those three words, no, 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 were the last words she would ever hear. She still stayed on that line. She still begged Lauren to answer while Matt was talking to the police, trying to piece together where exactly Lauren might have been when this happened. And then all of a sudden, on the phone call that Jill was on, someone said, hello? And Jill was like, hi, hi, who's this? And the voice said, well, I just found this phone on the ground next to a backpack. And Jill's heart sank. Lauren wouldn't leave her phone and her backpack willingly just in the middle of the sidewalk like this. And Jill knew that something was very, very wrong. But what no one knew in that moment, not Jill, not Matt, not the 911 dispatcher, was that earlier that same evening, Melvin had been inside the dorm building, pacing back and forth, back and forth. Somehow no one thought it was weird because he always used to stay there. So he was kind of like a familiar face. He wasn't a stranger in that dorm. So no one thought anything of it. Security footage showed him wearing a black hoodie, jeans, and white Adidas sneakers. And he wasn't just kind of like passing through. He was very clearly waiting and watching. He had a black drawstring bag with him. And inside that bag, a handgun. A weapon that he'd apparently borrowed from a former coworker, offering that coworker $200 because he wanted to go target shooting, he said. Melvin had entered the building sometime around 6 p.m., about 2 hours before that phone call Lauren had with her mom. And then sometime after 8:20 p.m., right after she said, no, 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 Melvin attacked. He ambushed her just steps away from the safety of her own dorm, tackled her to the ground, and forced her into the back seat of a car parked nearby. Inside that car, Melvin shot Lauren 7 times. 7. She died in the back seat of that car, alone, probably afraid, and knowing that no one was coming to help her. She had begged for help for weeks. She had done everything right. She'd reported everything that was happening, and still no one was there when it mattered most. While her body sat in that car, dead, officers combed the area with flashlights, unaware that they were already too late. It would take hours before they would find her body. And almost immediately after they did, all across campus, hundreds of students' phones buzzed in unison as the university sent out a chilling alert. U of U alert, shooting on campus, secure in place, more info to come. Classrooms went quiet, dorms locked down, students stopped going out. Some thought it might be a drill. Others panicked, assuming the worst. And deep down, some of them already knew. Lauren's closest friends, Alex, Diamond, Carmen, they knew Lauren had been scared. They knew she had been stalked, manipulated, tormented. And now there was a shooting on campus at her dorm. They knew it wasn't a coincidence. When Diamond got the alert on her phone, she dropped her phone. She later said, I hated myself. I felt like I didn't do enough. I didn't know what to tell her parents or our friends. I could have helped her. But this wasn't Diamond's fault. She had tried to help her. So had Alex. And Lauren had tried to help herself. They had all been screaming into a system that wasn't listening. As the alert spread, the university released an image of the suspect to the public, Melvin Rowland. His face, now pixelated and broadcast on every news channel, was paired with a warning: armed and dangerous, do not approach. Back in Washington, Jill and Matt were still in a fog. It had been over an hour since Lauren's phone went silent, over an hour since Jill heard her scream. It had actually probably been several hours. And then the phone rang. It was Lauren's track coach. And he had to let them know that Lauren's body had been found, shot 7 times. For Matt, it just didn't even register at first. He later said, I was just stunned. It wasn't even like I could work through any emotion. I just said, no, that can't be. He said it felt like being hit in the chest with a baseball bat, like someone had knocked the wind out of his soul. Outside search teams were swarming the U of U campus and the city. Officers spread out looking for Melvin, now officially a fugitive. But what they didn't know yet was that Melvin had already escaped, and someone had helped him without even knowing it. Because that same night, about 20 miles away, a woman sat on her couch, the soft glow of the TV on her face, and something came across the screen that made her entire body go still. Melvin Rowland's face, bold and centered right there, wanted for murder. She dropped the glass she was holding in her hand, shattered to the floor, because just hours earlier, Melvin had been in her home. He'd called her that afternoon, casually looking for a ride from campus. He said, I just finished a workout. He sounded calm, normal, not rushed, not frantic. And she said, okay. And she picked him up. They grabbed some dinner. He made small talk. And then he asked if he could shower at her place, and she let him. She watched a little TV, and he did start pacing a bit, and he kept glancing at his phone. Every time a campus alert came through, he seemed kind of tense. She didn't know what was going on, though. She wasn't getting these campus alerts, so she thought he was just anxious. She didn't know that he was hiding a murder. Later that night, she drove him to a coffee shop and dropped him off without thinking twice. But now, staring at the news report, she realized that she had just given a cold-blooded killer a possible way out. Panicked, she called the police. By 1 a.m., Melvin had been spotted entering Trinity AME Church in downtown Salt Lake City. Officers moved quickly. The church was dark, quiet, seemingly locked up. They were preparing to breach the building when a sound echoed from inside. A single gunshot. It bounced off the stained glass windows and dissolved into the night. And when police finally made entry, they found Melvin's body on the floor. He had used the same gun he killed Lauren with to end his own life. In the days that followed, as campus fell into silence and Lauren's face appeared in candlelit vigils and news reports across the country, a devastating truth came into focus. Lauren had done everything right. She had reported Melvin for harassment, for stalking, for blackmail, for impersonating a police officer. She had named him. They had his criminal record. They had the $1,000 extortion payment, the threatening messages, the nude images he said he'd leak. And still, nothing. The University of Utah police didn't act. They didn't protect her. In fact, the detective assigned to her case waited 6 full days before taking any real investigative action. And by then, it was already too late. Oh, but it gets worse. Because after Lauren's murder, another stomach turning revelation surfaced. Officer Miguel Darris, the man who had handled Lauren's extortion complaint, the man she had trusted to protect her, had allegedly downloaded her private photos onto his personal phone. So she had provided him with these photos that Melvin was threatening to release online so that they would know, this is evidence. But he put them on his personal phone. And then, according to multiple fellow officers, he shared them. Not as part of the investigation, not as evidence, as entertainment. He showed them to other officers, joked about them. One colleague claimed he even said, "I can look at these whenever I want." No criminal files. Nope. No criminal charges were ever filed. Instead, he just quietly transferred to another police department. Lauren hadn't even been buried, laid to rest before her privacy was violated again by this officer. Because apparently, not only did he share these photos before she had been killed, but he was showing other officers after she had been killed. It felt like a second death, and it proved what Jill and Matt McCluskey had feared all along. The system that was supposed to protect their daughter had failed her. And then it mocked her. After Lauren's murder, Jill and Matt McCluskey did the unthinkable. They faced the press, they faced the university, they faced the unbearable silence of their daughter's absence, and they turned it into something that could not be ignored, as Lauren had been ignored. They filed a lawsuit against the University of Utah, not out of revenge or not for profit, but because someone had to make sure this didn't happen again. And when the university settled for $13.5 million, the McCluskeys did not keep one dime. They channeled it entirely into causes that reflected Lauren's passions. $10.5 million was directed to the Lauren McCluskey Foundation, which was established to promote campus safety, support student athletes, and advocate for animal welfare, something that Lauren cared deeply about. $3 million was donated by the university to the foundation as part of the settlement agreement. Lauren's love for animals, especially cats, was very well known. It's something I didn't talk about earlier in the episode, but she frequently volunteered at the Humane Society back home in Washington. She helped socialize cats so that they could find loving homes, which is super, super sweet because, cats can be kind of bitchy sometimes. So she would make sure that the cats would become more friendly so they would get adopted. And in her honor, thousands of dollars have been donated to support the Humane Society's cat wing, ensuring that her compassion continues to make a difference. And that isn't all. Her parents also created something that's now etched into syllabi on hundreds of campuses around the country, maybe the world, hopefully fostering a culture where students can feel seen, heard, and supported. And it's called Lauren's Promise. It's a simple but powerful commitment that reads, "If you are being threatened, harassed, or made to feel unsafe, I will listen. I will believe you. I will help you get support." Sorry, guys, I know I'm choked up. It's a promise that professors, mentors, and institutions now make to their students because no one believed Lauren when it mattered. And Jill put it bluntly, "We are hopeful this causes insurance companies worldwide to view campus police who do not respond to women with urgency as a risk." So hopefully when empathy or responsibility fails, maybe liability will speak louder. In one of his final interviews, Matt McCluskey was asked what the greatest tragedy was. He hadn't rehearsed his answer. It certainly wasn't polished, but it was very honest. He said, "The unfairness of it. I don't want to be in this world, not in a world without Lauren, but I'm stuck. So what are we going to do? We're going to honor her, and we're going to fight like hell so this never happens to another girl again." Sorry, guys, this one really hits hard for me. Because Lauren McCluskey should have lived. She should have graduated. She should have traveled. She should have saved a bunch of cats and met the actual love of her life and been able to have kids one day, which was something she always dreamed of. But instead, her name now lives on as a warning and as a call to action. Her parents, amazing people that they are, refused to let the system that failed her write her final chapter. They used her grief as a weapon of sorts, and they forced a reckoning. They didn't want justice because justice wouldn't come. They knew that. They wanted change. And because of them, it is slowly happening. Campus policies are evolving. Police training protocols are being rewritten. And students, especially women, are now hopefully more likely to be heard because of one woman who kept asking for help until her final breath. And it just, I cannot. Lauren's light wasn't extinguished. It was passed on. And because I'm trying not to end on just talking about the crime, we're going to just remember Lauren. She was a daughter, a friend, an athlete, and a brilliant young woman with a bright future who had her whole entire life ahead of her. And in the end, the man who took that life wasn't just Melvin Rowland. It was the people who ignored her, the officers who dismissed her, the system that looked the other way again and again and again until it was too late. Lauren didn't and I hate when people say this, she didn't fall through the cracks. She was shoved into the cracks. And if her story doesn't make you angry, doesn't make you want to scream, then you weren't probably really listening, because this story is, to me, probably one of the more devastating ones that I've told because, well, for all the reasons I just said. I'm not going to overtalk it here. I'm obviously very emotional about this. So I will say that I'm, thoughts and prayers go out to her family. Certainly her parents seem like incredibly strong, amazing people. I will include any information about if there's anywhere to donate to like a cat shelter or, sorry guys, anything in her honor. I will put that in the show notes. And before I continue blubbering like a baby everywhere, I will say that is it for today's episode. Thank you for listening. I will be back later this week with true crime headlines for you. Okay, bye guys.
Death by Southwest is hosted by Jenna Schneider and Margot Carmichael.
Executive produced by Margot Carmichael.
Produced by Jenna Schneider.
Audio editing and sound design by Margot Carmichael.
Music by Soundstripe.
And a special thanks to Edward R. Murrow for letting us borrow his famous sign-off phrase, "Good night and good luck."